The room was huge, taller than any building on Earth, and filled with creatures from every corner of the galaxy. Some were tall, stretching 3 times the height of a human, their bodies covered in scales that shimmered like glass. Others were small, no bigger than a cat, with many arms waving as they spoke quickly in voices no human could understand. Humans had learned to read expressions and gestures, but it was still overwhelming. The air hummed with tension and the quiet buzz of alien technology. Holograms floated above tables, showing star maps and treaties, casting strange lights on faces of every color and shape. At the center of it all sat the human delegation. Lisa Carter, the ambassador, was calm. She had short brown hair, warm eyes, and a posture that showed she was ready for whatever happened. Beside her, Ethan Brooks, the strategist, flipped through digital pages on a small screen, scanning numbers, charts, and projections. Unlike many of the other species, humans had little in the way of natural strength or exotic abilities. They had learned to rely on their mind, their teamwork, and their resilience. The summit had started hours ago. Hundreds of delegates had taken turns speaking, and each time, the words had been the same. Humans were too strong, too fast, and too unpredictable. Some species claimed humans were violent, others said humans were selfish. A few even whispered that humans had already begun a plan to dominate the galaxy. Lisa had listened quietly to every accusation, nodding politely, while Ethan took notes on every threat or suggestion. Finally, a massive creature called Tharok, from the planet Zero, rose. His voice was low and growling, but it echoed clearly through the chamber. Humans have no right to continue unchecked expansion. Their technology spreads too fast. Their fleets grow too large, and their influence touches worlds that do not wish it. They must sign the containment treaty, or we will act to stop them. The room trembled slightly as his words sank in. Some species murmured agreement, while others shifted nervously in their seats. Humans were strong, but in sheer numbers, they were still a small group in the galaxy. Lisa did not flinch. She looked directly at Tharok, her eyes steady. "We did not come here to fight," she said softly, her voice carrying clearly over the noise. "Humans have always offered cooperation. We have shared technology, medical help, and safe trade routes for decades. And yet, you see us only as a threat. We did not force anyone to accept what we offered. We asked, and the galaxy refused. Now you demand we give up what we have built, what we have earned." Ethan leaned forward slightly, adding, "The treaty you ask us to sign is not protection. It is control. You are asking humans to limit their growth, to reduce their strength, because other species are afraid. We cannot agree to that." For a moment, the chamber went silent. Every alien delegate turned to look at the humans. Many were shocked by the directness of their words. Most had expected silence, maybe hesitation, or even a plea for compromise. Instead, humans had stood and spoken truthfully, without fear or anger. A voice piped up from the far side of the room. It belonged to a thin, winged being called Lyra, from the planet Vera. "Are you saying you will refuse the treaty? You know what that means, human. You will face the combined might of every species here. Your fleets are nothing compared to what we can bring." Lisa smiled faintly. "We are aware, and yet, we cannot sign a treaty that limits humanity because others are afraid of us. We will not harm anyone, but we will not be forced into weakness either. We hope that the galaxy can understand this, even if some do not wish to." Ethan nodded. "We offered peace for decades, and we will continue to act peacefully. But we will not sacrifice our future out of fear or pressure. Humans are not cowards." Whispers spread quickly. Some delegates looked worried. Others exchanged surprised looks. One of the smaller furry creatures from the planet Tyran squeaked nervously. Its translator made the words clear. "They dare to speak this way? They have no power here." And yet, humans were calm. They did not yell, they did not threaten. They simply placed their communication badges, their symbols of authority, on the long table that separated them from the other species. The gesture was silent but full of meaning. They were stepping away from the table, withdrawing from the process. They were leaving the summit entirely. For a moment, the room froze. Every eye in the chamber was on Lisa and Ethan. Some species could not believe what they were seeing. They had expected negotiation, maybe a compromise. But not this. Humans, a species often underestimated, had chosen to stand on their principles. The rock's growl echoed again, deeper and louder this time. You will regret this, humans. You cannot survive without us. We maintain the balance. Without us, chaos will follow. Lisa's expression did not change. If the galaxy cannot accept humans as equals, then humans will make our own way. We will not be chained because of fear. The galaxy may tremble at our absence, but we will act with honor, not intimidation. Ethan rose slightly from his seat, signaling the end of their participation. He looked over the room. We are done here. The humans leave the table. Those who wish to act against us will soon learn that cooperation is better than conflict, and those who depend on human networks should think carefully before taking rash action. There was a murmur that swept through the room, growing louder and louder. Some species were in panic. Many had relied on human trade routes for supplies, medicine, and even military support. Others had underestimated the humans, thinking them small, fragile, and weak. They were wrong. Humanity had grown strong, not only in numbers but in strategy, alliances, and resilience. Lisa and Ethan turned and walked slowly to the exit. Their steps were firm but unhurried. Each member of the human delegation followed. The giant chamber seemed even larger as they passed, and every pair of alien eyes followed them with a mix of fear, awe, and confusion. Outside the chamber, the halls of the summit were quieter, almost empty compared to the chaos inside. Humans walked together, speaking softly among themselves. "Do you think they will retaliate?" asked one young delegate, a man named Daniel Myers. Lisa shook her head. "They may try, but they will fail. Humans act differently. We do not act out of anger or revenge. We act out of reason and principle. That is our strength, and that is why the galaxy must respect us even if some refuse to do so now." Ethan looked up at the ceiling, which seemed to stretch endlessly. Some will panic. Others will see opportunity. The galaxy does not understand humans yet, but it will. And soon, it will see why humans have always been underestimated at their own peril. Back in the chamber, the alien delegates had begun to debate furiously. Some called for immediate military action, while others argued that attacking humans was foolish. The truth was clear. The galaxy depended on humans more than many wanted to admit. Trade routes, peace treaties, and research networks all relied on human participation. Without them, systems would falter, and old conflicts would flare again. Even Thorok's massive form looked uneasy. His eyes flickered with a mixture of anger and uncertainty. He had faced many threats in his life, but humans were different. They were unpredictable, yes. But more importantly, they acted with a sense of logic and unity that no other species had seen. The galaxy had feared them, mocked them, and tried to control them. And now, humans had chosen to leave, not out of defeat, but out of principle. Back in the quiet corridors, Lisa paused and looked at the stars visible through a massive window. Countless worlds shone, each with life, each with hope and fear. Humans had always looked outward, always curious, always determined. And now, they would chart their own path, free from the constraints of species too afraid to trust them. Daniel glanced at her. "Do you think the galaxy will understand?" Lisa smiled softly. "Some will, some will not. But humans will endure. That is what makes us strong, and when the galaxy sees the truth, it will remember this day." The day humans walked away from the table, calm, unafraid, and united. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Let them tremble. Let them realize that fear and control cannot hold back what is natural, what is earned. Humanity will thrive not by fighting, but by standing tall in the face of threats and refusing to compromise our principles. They continued walking, leaving the massive chamber behind. In every step, there was purpose, strength, and a quiet defiance that echoed through the halls. And somewhere, deep in the galaxy, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if bearing witness to the moment when humans, small in numbers but mighty in spirit, had made a choice that would be remembered for generations. The news of humanity walking away from the summit spread across the galaxy faster than any message ever had. Star systems that had long depended on human trade and peacekeeping were thrown into confusion. Ships stopped moving along their usual routes. Communication networks slowed. Some planets panicked, sending urgent messages to their neighbors asking for guidance. Humans were leaving, and no one knew exactly what it would mean. On a small planet in the Rylara system, a council of alien leaders gathered. They were panicked, whispering in voices that were sharper than usual. One of them, a tall, insect-like creature named Vorlon, spoke with rapid clicks and buzzes. The translator made the sounds clear. Without humans, the trade lanes will collapse. Food and medicine will not reach outer colonies. Our fleets cannot patrol all the borders. This was a mistake. They cannot be allowed to leave like this. Another, a soft-bodied being from the ocean world of Kilara, spoke in a trembling voice. We underestimated them. We thought humans were weak, but they are not. They are clever, united, and patient. If they act, the galaxy will have no choice but to follow them, or face collapse. Meanwhile, in the human capital, a city floating above the surface of a green world, Lisa and Ethan were in a quiet room overlooking the stars. Humans were preparing for the first time in generations to stand completely on their own. The summit had shown them that the galaxy was not ready to treat them as equals. They had offered help, shared knowledge, and maintained peace. And now, humans would step away, not with anger, but with resolve. Lisa looked at the map of human influence projected in front of her. Lines of trade, supply routes, research stations, and medical facilities crisscrossed countless star systems. These systems are fragile, she said softly. Without guidance, some will struggle. But humans will not abandon those who need help. We act with honor. We act with care. That is what makes us human. Ethan nodded. Some will panic. Some will try to take advantage. Others will learn too late how much they depended on us. But in the end, the galaxy will see that humans are different, and they will respect it or regret it. Outside the human capital, ships of all shapes and sizes began moving. Some carried supplies to planets that would struggle without human support. Others transported humans to new colonies and defense positions. Even though humanity had left the summit, they were not leaving anyone to suffer unnecessarily. Their strategy was simple: step away from politics, not from responsibility. In one star system, the planet Drelos, news arrived that the humans had withdrawn. The governor of the planet, a gray-skinned humanoid named Jarrell, ran through the streets, shouting warnings. Prepare for shortages. Human fleets are no longer monitoring the borders. We must act now. Markets closed, citizens panicked, and traders scrambled to find supplies. A few brave leaders tried to reassure the population, but even they could not deny the importance of human trade networks. Without them, survival would be harder than ever. At the same time, some species began to consider using the human absence for their own gain. Pirates, warlords, and rogue fleets saw opportunity in the chaos. They struck at planets that had once been protected by human forces. Their attacks were met with resistance, but the lack of coordination among alien systems meant that small conflicts began to grow. What had been peaceful trade routes now became dangerous paths filled with fear. Back in the human capital, Lisa received reports of these attacks. She did not panic. Instead, she instructed Ethan to prioritize humanitarian aid. "We will not start wars," she said. "We will help those who need it, even if the galaxy does not deserve it. That is our way." Ethan agreed. We will also strengthen our defense fleets. If any species decides to challenge humans directly, they will see that we are not weak, but we will not seek conflict. We will only respond to it. Meanwhile, the news of humanity's withdrawal reached the original summit chamber. Delegates argued fiercely. Some wanted to send fleets to force humans back to the table. Others recognized the truth. Humans had been the stabilizers, the unifiers. Without them, every rival, every dispute, every hidden threat could escalate into disaster. A small delegation from the planet Hestara tried to reason. We cannot attack them, their leader said. They will act with precision. They do not fight like we do. Humans are patient, strategic, and united. If we make a mistake, the consequences will be severe, but others, blinded by fear, did not listen. They believed that human strength had limits. They had seen human fleets, but they had not understood human determination. They had seen human negotiations, but they had not felt human will. And so, debate raged, while the humans quietly prepared, strengthening systems, building alliances with planets that had treated them fairly, and watching the galaxy carefully. On a remote research station near the edge of known space, a young scientist named Clara, a human, looked at the stars and whispered to herself, "We are not leaving the galaxy behind. We are giving it a chance to grow up. Maybe someday it will understand us." She smiled slightly, knowing that humans acted not for domination, but for principle. In the weeks that followed, small skirmishes erupted across several systems. Alien fleets attempted to claim planets that had once relied on humans for protection. In each case, humans responded but not with overwhelming force. They acted with precision, rescuing civilians, protecting supply lines, and neutralizing threats without unnecessary destruction. Every action demonstrated a pattern. Humans were not reckless. They were not cruel. They were disciplined, careful, and unafraid. Across the galaxy, stories began to spread. Reports of humans saving entire colonies from starvation, of humans preventing attacks without initiating them, of humans acting with courage and honor, began to circulate. Species that had feared humans began to whisper among themselves. Perhaps we underestimated them. Perhaps we judged them too quickly. Ethan and Lisa walked along the observation deck of the human capital one evening. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction, each representing a world, a civilization, a life. Lisa spoke quietly, almost to herself. They do not understand yet. They see humans as a threat, or as weak. They do not see our real strength, our unity, our honor, our patience. Ethan nodded. And when they realize it, it will be too late. We are not here to conquer, but we cannot be ignored. The galaxy will tremble, either now or later, and it will remember what happens when humans act for themselves. Even within the human capital, there were those who worried. Some feared retaliation from alien coalitions. Some worried about resources, supplies, or colonies that might fall into chaos without careful human management. But Lisa and Ethan reminded everyone that humanity had survived worse. Humans had faced crises, wars, and near extinction, and each time, they had risen stronger. This was no different. The galaxy was learning a lesson, though it would take time. Humans were not easily controlled. Humans were not easily intimidated. And humans, when they walked away, did so with a quiet strength that few had ever seen. Meanwhile, smaller species began to take notice. Some, previously ignored by larger empires, now realized that humans offered protection and opportunity. Quiet alliances began to form with humans, not because of fear, but because those species recognized fairness, reliability, and honesty. A few diplomats from these worlds came to the human capital to negotiate. Lisa met with them personally, listening carefully, offering guidance, and forming plans that would help create stability outside the old summit. Even alien leaders who had once scorned humans found themselves watching. They did not understand the full scale of human strength, but they could see that humans were organized, united, and unafraid. They were different from every other species, and the galaxy began to change in small but meaningful ways. In one corner of the galaxy, a pirate fleet thought they could take advantage of human absence. They attacked a small colony, expecting weak resistance. Instead, they found humans already in position, ready to defend, but humans did not strike to destroy. They acted to protect. In a few hours, the pirates were captured, their ships disabled, and the colony was safe. Stories like this spread across the stars, reinforcing the truth. Humans did not need to fight aggressively to be respected. Lisa and Ethan stood together on the command deck of a fleet cruiser, watching the news reports. "They still do not understand," Lisa said. "Some will never understand. They judge us by fear, by appearances, by arrogance. But humans act differently. We are patient. We are careful. And we do not bend to threats or demands that are unfair." Ethan smiled faintly. "Let them panic. Let them squabble. Humans will endure. The galaxy will adjust. And eventually, it will recognize that the strongest force is not fear, but principle." For the first time in generations, humans moved through the galaxy without approval, without negotiation, and without compromise. They had walked away from the table, leaving the summit and the demands behind. Yet they had not left the galaxy helpless. They moved with precision, purpose, and care, showing that humanity was not weak, but wise, not reckless, but deliberate. The galaxy trembled not because humans had struck, but because humans had chosen their own path. And in that choice, in that quiet strength, every species began to see a simple truth. Humans were unlike any other civilization, and one day, the galaxy would understand that walking away was just the beginning of something far greater. Months had passed since humans had walked away from the summit. The galaxy was still reeling from their departure. Trade routes that had once been secure now saw delays and confusion. Some planets faced shortages of food, medicine, and technology. Smaller species struggled to maintain stability without human guidance, and larger empires were busy squabbling over territory. The absence of humans created chaos. But it also revealed one undeniable truth. Humanity had been the backbone of the galaxy's fragile peace. Inside the human capital, Lisa Carter and Ethan Brooks oversaw a new phase of human strategy. They were no longer negotiating, no longer trying to convince alien species to respect them. Instead, humans focused on strengthening their own systems, ensuring that their colonies, fleets, and trade networks were independent and efficient. The first step was consolidation. Every planet under human influence was audited, every fleet assessed, every research station evaluated for sustainability. Nothing was wasted, nothing overlooked. Humans had learned to survive with limited resources in the past, and now they were preparing for a galaxy that might challenge them directly. Lisa walked along the observation deck, looking out at the glittering stars. "We have given the galaxy time to react," she said. "Some species panic, others plot. But humans cannot stop growing because others fear us. We will continue to build, to explore, and to protect where we can. That is our way." Ethan, standing beside her, nodded. "And in the process, we show the galaxy that humans do not need permission. They have underestimated us for too long. Now they will see how we act when we are free to choose our path." Their first priority was security. Alien skirmishes had already started to increase in the outer systems. Rogue fleets, pirates, and small coalitions of discontented species tested the limits of human defenses. In each case, humans responded quickly but carefully. They did not attack to destroy. They acted to defend, to protect trade routes, and to ensure that no colonies fell into permanent chaos. The approach was deliberate, a show of power tempered by responsibility. On one border system, a pirate fleet attempted a raid on a mining colony. The humans had anticipated the move. Fleet commanders deployed a small strike group, cutting off the pirates' escape while protecting the colony's inhabitants. No one on the colony was harmed. The pirates surrendered, shocked at the precision and efficiency of the human operation. Word of the event spread quickly, further reinforcing the growing reputation of humans as both capable and restrained. Meanwhile, the alien empires that had tried to assert control began to realize a hard truth. Without humans to mediate, trade disputes escalated into armed conflict. One of the largest coalitions, the Zirel Dominion, attempted to claim a strategically important system. Their forces moved quickly, expecting little resistance. Instead, they found that human defense grids had already been installed months prior, with automated systems, fleet support, and emergency evacuation plans. The Dominion's leaders were forced to retreat, humiliated but unharmed, realizing that humans had planned for every eventuality. Inside the human capital, strategy meetings were constant. Every officer, every planner, every scientist contributed to a network of intelligence that covered vast regions of space. Humans were no longer reliant on alliances formed through diplomacy. They built their own strength through coordination, technology, and adaptability. It was a different kind of power, one that the galaxy had never fully appreciated. Lisa met with a delegation from a small alien world that had been ignored by larger empires. The leader, a creature with long, flexible limbs named Rena, bowed respectfully. "We see that humans act differently," Rena said. "You do not dominate, you do not threaten, you only protect. Our people wish to join your network, to learn from you and to ensure safety in our sector." Lisa smiled. "We do not ask for loyalty or fear. We ask only for cooperation and honesty. We will help those who wish to be helped, but we will not tolerate deception. Together, we can build stability in a galaxy that has grown chaotic." Word of these alliances spread quickly. Species that had once ignored humans began to seek their guidance. Others, who had sought to exploit the absence of humans, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Humans moved with patience, precision, and foresight, demonstrating a kind of strength that could not be measured by numbers or weapons alone. In one remote research station, human scientists had begun a project to improve defensive technology for colonies without relying on fleet support. Automated defense drones, shield generators, and emergency communication systems were deployed. Colonies that might have fallen without human presence now had a fighting chance. The project was a quiet but powerful example of how humans acted differently from other species. They did not simply protect, they prepared, ensured sustainability, and built resilience. Back in the capital, Lisa and Ethan reviewed reports from the outer systems. "Some species are still plotting against us," Ethan said, "but they are not attacking directly. They are testing, probing. Every move they make is countered, not with aggression, but with precision and efficiency. They cannot catch us off guard." Lisa nodded. "That is the difference. Humans do not act recklessly. We do not strike out of fear or anger. Every action has a purpose. Every decision is measured. The galaxy may not understand this yet, but it will." At the same time, human colonies were thriving. Trade had increased in systems that chose to work with humans, and technology spread not through coercion, but through cooperation. Medicine, energy solutions, and infrastructure projects were shared freely with species that approached honestly. This earned loyalty and respect, further strengthening human influence. Not all aliens accepted this new order willingly. Some, particularly the older empires, struggled with the idea that humans did not seek control. They had always assumed that power could only be wielded through force. Humans challenged that assumption simply by acting differently. Alien leaders argued, debated, and sometimes schemed, but they could not deny the effectiveness of human methods. In the skies above a contested system, two fleets faced off. One was human, small but perfectly coordinated. The other was a coalition of alien warships, larger and more numerous. The aliens fired first, expecting to overwhelm the humans. But the human fleet moved with uncanny precision. They avoided damage, protected civilians on nearby planets, and neutralized the threat without unnecessary destruction. The aliens were stunned. They had anticipated chaos, but humans acted with order, discipline, and strategy. Back in the human capital, Lisa received reports from every system. Each story reinforced the same lesson. Humans did not need to fight to prove their strength. They acted with principle, not aggression, and the results were undeniable. Aliens began to whisper among themselves, realizing that humans were not just another species. They were a force unlike any other, and one that could not be controlled through fear or intimidation. Ethan leaned back in his chair, reviewing fleet movements. The galaxy is learning that humans are not like other species. They cannot be forced into submission. They cannot be tricked or bullied, and when they act with purpose, precision, and principle. That is what makes them dangerous to those who rely on fear to lead. Lisa looked at the stars, reflecting on the path humanity had chosen. We have given the galaxy a choice. We have shown that humans are not reckless conquerors. We have acted responsibly, carefully, and with honor. Now the galaxy must decide whether it will respect humans or continue to try to oppose us. In smaller systems, news of human actions had already begun to change opinions. Communities that had once feared humans now looked to them for guidance. Young species, curious and eager to learn, sent representatives to study human methods. Even some of the larger empires began to reconsider their stance, realizing that ignoring humanity could be disastrous. Across the galaxy, humans had begun to consolidate power, not through domination, but through example, cooperation, and preparation. Their influence was growing quietly, but steadily. The species that had once dismissed humans as weak or reckless now had to recognize a new reality. Humans were capable, united, and unafraid. Lisa and Ethan met in the command center late one night. The room was quiet, filled with the soft hum of computers and the blinking lights of communication panels. "We are not finished," Lisa said. "There is still much work to do. The galaxy will continue to challenge us, to test our patience and resolve. But humans will endure. That is our strength." Ethan nodded. "And the galaxy will tremble not because we attack, but because they will see what humans can achieve when we act with purpose and principle. That is the real power of humanity. We do not rely on fear. We rely on wisdom, cooperation, and strength of will." Outside the command center, stars stretched endlessly in every direction. Each one a world, a civilization, and a life. Humans moved among them with care and purpose, quietly shaping the galaxy through action rather than words, through preparation rather than aggression. They had walked away from the summit, leaving behind politics, fear, and doubt, and in doing so, they had begun to show the galaxy what it truly meant to be human. In the weeks and months that followed, humans continued to strengthen their influence. New alliances formed, trade flourished, and defenses were improved across countless star systems. Humans acted with consistency, fairness, and honor, slowly teaching the galaxy that strength did not come from dominance, but from integrity, planning, and unity. And in every system where humans had a presence, one truth became clear. The galaxy could tremble at their absence, panic at their decisions, or fear their power. But humans moved forward with quiet determination, showing that their true strength was not in fleets or weapons, but in the very essence of who they were.